Hello, my name is Serenity, and I wrote a summary about the Big Five Factor Model of Personality. The Big Five Factor Model of Personality is often called the Big Five and is one of the most widely accepted and empirically supported models of personality in psychology. It proposes that the human personality can be described using five stable dimensions. These traits are definitely present in all individuals, varying in degrees that are considered relatively stable across everyone's lifespan. The model is not just from one theorist; its research is from research and mainly from the work of Costa and McRae. The five factor model is considered trait based and descriptive and biologically grounded, basically describing what personality is like rather than explaining through unconscious conflicts of learning histories. The five traits are openness to experience, of intellectual curiosity, creativity, and preference, novelty, and variety; consciousness, which indicates a person's level of organization and dependable discipline; and extroversion, which means the extent of sociability, assertiveness, emotional expressiveness, and agreeableness. Basically, you're agreeing to everything and being able to be cooperative towards others. Oops. And neuroticism relates to emotional stability and the tendency to experience negative emotions like depression, anxiety, etc. For my take, the openness to experience. Openness to experience basically refers to the degree to which a person is able to be open minded, imaginative, and receptive to new ideas and experiences. People who usually tend to be able to have an openness to experience or are high in openness to experience tend to be curious, intellectually adventurous, creative, and imaginative, and also interested in art, philosophy, and just basically able to take in different ideas and are very comfortable with change. They often enjoy exploring new cultures, trying new activities, and thinking basically outside the box, and they're very creative. Cognitive thinking and flexibility is one of their top traits and what they're able to accomplish within tolerating or going through the experience of life or any culture or any type of basically ambiguity. People in low openness tend to be practically they're practical, they're conventional, and they're very routine based. They really prefer to be routine and familiar with the things that they're used to, and they stay comfortable in the area that they're in, or they prefer really things over novelty. More concrete and they're literal in all their thinking and resistant to change. Usually it's not the fact that they're just resistant to change. It's because they're just not it's not that they're like just not just resistant to change. They're used to normal. They're used to structure, they're used to basically tradition, and they also do a lot of things that are known to them or proven to them. They go with literal proven methods. Consciousness. Consciousness reflects the degree which a person is organized and disciplined and responsible and goal directed. People who usually have a sense of consciousness, or people high in consciousness, tend to be organized, reliable, self disciplined, hardworking, careful, planful, detailed, and very, very oriented. They do have like a very strong sense of control. High consciousness is one of the strongest predicators of academic success, job performance, and long term health outcome. Usually, these individuals or these people basically tend to delay gratification and persist towards their goals or anything that they find meaningfulness in. And people who lack consciousness, they basically tend to be they procrastinate, they're disorganized, they're careless, they're impulsive, they're spontaneous, and they're not as reliable as a conscious person. More like they're basically they're held back by their procrastination, or they don't move with a sense of purpose. Low consciousness is associated with flexibility and spontaneity, and they may also involve difficulty with long-term planning and responsibility. Extroversion, that basically it refers to the extent which a person is socially outgoing. They're socially outgoing, they're energetic, they also love a bunch of stimulation, and they love social interaction. They're talkative. People with high extroversion also tend to be assertive and energetic, experience positive emotions frequently, and then seek excitement and stimulation. So they love like crowds, somebody that's going to talk to them, stimulate their mind, make them think, just be able to get themselves in an environment where it's like a lot of people. And they tend to move in sometimes often groups, and if they're not in groups, they're by themselves, but they're very social among others. people People that are extroversion, they basically gain energy from being around social, like anything that has to do with a social experiment. So they like to be leaders, and they like to do a bunch of activities, whether it's preferably it's with a group, but if they do it by themselves, they get a crowd of people to go along with them in their exact plans or activities. People low with extroversion often are called introverts. They tend to be reserved and quiet, reflective and introspective, and prefer solitude or a small group of activities, less sensation seeking. So they do not like to go out as much. They do not like to be social as much. They can, but they just choose to do it without. And it's not for stimulation. It's for just the enjoyment of the moment. And then they might disassociate and go off into their own world or by themselves. But they're okay with crowds, but they're mainly quiet. They don't get stimulation from going out or being around a bunch of people. They're able to sit and be by themselves for longer periods of time rather than an extroverted person. It's not them being shy or anything. It's just socially they can be socially confident, but they do prefer lower crowds and levels of stimulation. Four, agreeableness. Agreeableness reflects to how a person relates to others in terms of basically cooperation and compassion and trust. People who have a sense of agreeableness, or being one of the big five factors, they basically have strong interpersonal relationships and pro-social behavior. They're kind, they're empathetic, they're cooperative, they're trusting, forgiving, helpful, and considerate. They're basically motivated to maintain peace and social harmony. People low in agreeableness tend to be more competitive, skeptical, blunt, critical, confrontational, basically practical, and less concerned with pleasing others. And they are sometimes self-focused. Low agreeableness is not negative. It can be beneficial to some. It just depends on who it's around or what type of crowd or environment they're around. It can come off as negativeness, but it's really not. It's just more so they're gonna they'll do better in more so of a competitive, or like a debate. Like they'll do better in a debate or anything that has to do with leadership, negotiation, or basically where a lot of assertiveness is required. And last but not least, neuroticism. Sorry, neuroticism. Sorry. Neuroticism refers to a person basically having a tendency to experience a bunch of emotions like depression, anxiety. Basically, they go through a bunch of sadness or basically emotional instability. People high in neuroticism tend to be emotionally reactive and sensitive to stress, prone to worry, anxiety, and mood swings, more vulnerable to depression, and high in self consciousness. High neuroticism is basically associated with lower stress tolerance and greater emotional distress. So they will be more stressed if they were put in a a hectic environment and stuff like that, because they don't know how to deal with their emotionals, like their emotional mood swings or whatever they may go through, like within a hectic moment or a very like stressful environment. People with low neuroticism tend to be emotionally stable and calm, resilient under pressure, less prone to anxiety or mood swings, and confident and secure. Low neuroticism is linked to psychological resilience and emotional regulation. In conclusion, the five factor scientifically sorry, the five factor model is basically scientifically supported from a bunch of understanding and personality in studies. It views personality as the combination of five pure dimensions, each representing a continuum of behavior, emotion, and cognition. Individuals differ where they fall on each dimension, creating unique personality profiles. The strength of the model lies in its simplicity and imperialism and support. And it's also cross-cultural and basically making it a foundational theory in modern personality psychology. And my references are, let me go to it. My references are definitely, I'm going to start with the first reference. I took off pages here. My first reference, matter of fact, let me do another tab. Uh, um, this is where I got mainly the openness of experiment. Openness to experience. This is one of the main ones. I said experiment. I meant experience. Okay. The consciousness. Uh, Okay, sorry for that. This is one of my references as well. But mainly my references come from APA PsychNet and um, the social consequences. Oh, sorry, not social consequences, but the last tab that I was in. Oops. It was, it was not this one. Okay, this is my, I couldn't find it, but this is where my site comes from of the extroversion, where I cited about the extroversions and how it just have your extroversion and your introversion and how they work and what their traits are and what the pros and the cons of it is. This is where my site reference come from agreeableness. And this is my last reference for not public health significance of neuroticism, but neuroticism. And basically what I extracted from there, and this is what that's where I cited from, this exact site.